Welcome to the Health by Haven podcast. I'm your host, Haven Quinlan. If you're a multi-passionate wellness enthusiast, then you're in the right place. I'm obsessed with learning as much as I can about the wellness world, and I want to share that with you. Each episode will dive into various aspects of health and wellness through inspiring and informative guest interviews with some solo episodes thrown in. Tune in for all things health, and let's have some fun, shall we? Georgia is an integrative nutrition health coach and certified holistic nutritionist, health and wellness blogger, content creator, and recipe developer dedicated to helping others create healthy, balanced lives. She takes a holistic approach to developing and maintaining healthy habits and helps her clients and community cultivate a fulfilling, happy life in mind, body, and spirit. I've followed Georgia on Instagram for years now and her amazing wellness content and authentic positive energy. So it's a major pinch me moment to have her as a guest on the Health by Haven podcast today. So welcome, Georgia. Thank you so much for being here.
So excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. This is so fun. I mean, I just cannot tell you how thrilled I am to chat with you because I really have. I've been following along for years and I was trying to think how did I discover you on Instagram? I have no idea, but I've been following your content and it's like, I feel like we're two peas in a pod as far as health philosophy. So I was like, we have to chat. For our listeners who may not follow you, can you provide some background into how you became interested in the world of health and nutrition?
Yes, for sure. So thank you for the lovely intro. My name is Georgia. So it's like a social media blog, et cetera, is Goodness with G. And to your question, I have always kind of been interested in wellness. Like my parents were very much tuned in to wellness, but kind of like from a holistic perspective pretty early on, kind of before it was more, I guess, mainstream. I don't know. For example, like my mom was taking us to acupuncture in grade school and my mom was like truly on the cutting edge of like Whole Foods, was shopping at these places before they were truly common. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think like looking back, I think really when we got into like my sister and I got into kind of like late grade school is when my parents, I feel like really, I don't know, kind of took their wellness journey and like their health journey more seriously. Like they sort of turned a corner, not that they were unhealthy before, but, started really diving into it, which exposed us to so many of those types of things. I think I've always just been interested in health, nutrition, and in cooking. That was always something that was really big. My mom cooked a lot. We cooked a lot together. And so growing up, I always would loved to do something in the wellness space. I was not and am not, I guess, from a school perspective, was never like a math and science kind of gal. So, going like the even like dietetics or like med school routes was not necessarily what like used my skills appropriately, though I was fascinated by nutrition again and wellness. But so it kind of took me a while to figure out like how do I fit into that space that's not a strictly, like a medical perspective, if that makes sense. Like things like reading, writing, creativity, like those were things that were much more, I guess, just where my skills thrived. And so, it took me a while outside of, I guess, in throughout college and a little bit after college to figure out like how do I actually apply what I'm interested in and what I'm good at and like to a business. So I actually had a job out of college that was like had nothing to do with what I wanted to do, because I needed a job and I was there for literally 6 months and hated my life.
Oh no.
I think that's such a common experience for obviously so many people, but actually ended up going back to graduate school because I really felt that I just needed some more time to figure it out, really. And again, maybe gain that little bit of an edge from a business perspective that might make me a more, I don't know, suitable applicant for these places that I thought that I wanted to work, like Whole Foods or any of these other sort of health and wellness companies that were based in Austin, which is where I was living at the time.
Okay.
And kind of through that journey, I think I realized like, okay, maybe it's not just working in a field that doesn't interest me that is making me so miserable, but honestly, I think I really learned that I was just someone who needed to, one, work for themselves. Like that became pretty evident pretty early for me. And also I needed to be doing something that I was really passionate about. I just didn't have the capacity to have a job that was unfulfilling and like function and be a happy person. I really needed my work and like my passions to be intertwined. So again, sort of like a self-discovery journey at that time. And when I actually went back to grad school is when I just started pursuing some things that really brought me joy, like sharing and making recipes. Like I started my Instagram truly just for fun. I went and got like my yoga sculpt certification from Core Power, like just doing random things that I thought would were fun, if nothing else. And through sort of that journey and doing those things, it's when I learned about the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is where I gained my health coaching certification. And then I went through that program. And from there, I was able to actually build a business out of what I was doing, and also help people in a more tangible way than just social media necessarily. So that's kind of how it evolved. And then since then, I've started taking on clients, like built my coaching practice. Then I also last year went and also got my uh, holistic nutritionist certification, just as an additional sort of tool to help my clients and sort of build off of a lot of things we were already talking about. So yeah, that's kind of like the long of the short of the journey. But yeah, it took me a minute to kind of figure out how to be in the space in a way that felt very aligned with both my skills, but also what I was really passionate about. So I'm very grateful, honestly, to have had that experience of being kind of miserable out of school and not knowing what I wanted to do, because I think it pushed me to figure out, what type of job, not just like the actual what I'm doing, but like the hours and the schedule and those types of things. So I've had to really kind of confront a lot of those things that have now created a business that's very meaningful and seemingly, I think, fits kind of what I want my job to look like.
Perfect. Well, that was such a great overview. And honestly, you hit a lot of the questions I had about how you got
Good.
into this space and
Perfect.
what that looked like, and if you studied this in school or if this was something that you went back for. So I think that's really
Yeah,
helpful for people to kind of hear that journey if they're interested in the field of health or wellness or nutrition, and maybe they don't have that kind of traditional entry of what we think about of like
right,
medical school or studying nutrition for a 4-year degree or things like
right.
that, that there are other opportunities to kind of find your niche and find your fit within the
100%.
space as well. And I know you mentioned IIN. Could you tell people a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So it's the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which it's funny, again, kind of when I was going through that just journey of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, it was one of those things that just kind of kept coming up, whether it was in conversations with people that I was trying to connect with in the wellness space, or I don't know, just things I was finding and reading, whatever. I was like, okay, this just seems to be like a program that either people have gone through or they were suggesting to me. And um, the curriculum honestly really, I guess, resonated in the sense that it was very holistic, quote unquote. And what I mean by that is like not just, it's not acupuncture and energy healing and all that stuff that I love personally, you know what I mean? Like, and has very much been a part of my own wellness journey. But really what they mean by like holistic health or like holistic wellness is, it's really looking at like the person from like a quote, like whole person perspective. So it's not just nutrition, you're really learning about you know, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, it's physical environment and relationships and creativity and all these different aspects of wellness that are just as important, if not more, oftentimes than just diet and like exercise alone, which we're often taught to be like the only thing that matters when it comes to health. And that was very much my own, I guess, kind of perspective towards wellness. And so it just felt very aligned. And I was like, okay, they're sort of teaching coaches how to coach from this perspective, which is already really how I, again, sort of felt. And to your point, I think that, kind of looking back to, it's like, I'm actually glad I didn't pursue a, 4-year nutrition degree or go that route, because for me, that's really just one aspect of wellness. And I think it would have made me hyper fixate on just that one element. And I wouldn't have maybe been able to help clients from again, like a broader, like a more holistic, whole person point of view. So yeah, it all kind of worked out. And like that was really what I was passionate about too. And so anyway, yeah, IIN's a great program. And I always have tons of people reach out to me about it. And it just gives you a good, I guess, foundation for how to help clients in a myriad ways. But I also think too with IIN or a lot of these other health coaching programs, I know like Mind Body Green has one. I even went through AFPA for my holistic nutritionist certification. They, I think, have a health coaching program too. So there's a lot of other ones that are, I'm sure, just as great. But I always remind people it's like just because you get that certification does not necessarily mean you have to go start your own practice and coach full time. Sure, yes, of course, a lot of people do that. Like that's the route I took.
Hmm.
But a lot of people go get those certifications and go start a wellness brand. They launch a product. They go work for like in a more corporate setting doing corporate wellness, or there's so many things you can do. So I always remind people that because I think it's like it's not linear. You can go get that certification to learn and get a great foundation, and you can apply it in a ton of different ways, so it's which is really cool. So keep your mind open, I guess.
Yeah, that's great advice because it does sound like from their holistic approach, there are so many different branches off that you could focus on, which also sounds like kind of how you approach coaching and wellness
Yeah,
and everything as well. So that's great. And also, I think people don't are undervaluing maybe their job satisfaction or their day-to-day like happiness in how healthy they are and how
sure.
how they feel because stress and mental health and all of that as you've mentioned really plays into overall well-being as well. So
100%.
yeah, great. All great points. So, talk to us then as well. I know you had mentioned the additional certification that you got through another company, and that one was more nutrition focused. Is that correct?
Yes, it
How was
is. Yeah.
that?
So it's technically it's like I'm a certified holistic nutritionist.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, in some ways the content or the curriculums in some ways sort of overlapped, but because like I said, IN is really holistic, like the curriculum is really holistic, and you learn not just about like nutrition theories and things like that, which is obviously a factor, but you're really encompassing a lot of different elements that you can then help your clients dive into themselves. And obviously, the holistic nutrition certification was much more just nutrition focused and went deeper into a lot of like nutrition I don't know, theories and things like that, which I kind of wanted as well, because like I said, I've always been fascinated by nutrition. So it kind of allowed me to have the best of both worlds, perhaps. And if nothing else, it just was a nice way to offer some more in-depth, you know, tips and
Hmm.
resources to clients. But, to your point earlier too, it's like it is interesting, I think, so often, and I don't know if other coaches experience this as well or not, but so often I have, new clients or whoever come to me and their top priority is most often, whether it's weight loss or it's they want to be on a diet, they want a diet plan or whatever it is,
Hmm.
like diet is most often the number one thing that they come to me looking for advice for or needing help with, whatever. And by the end of it, obviously we've discussed nutrition, we've discussed diet and how to
Hmm.
build balanced meals, and we're going to break it down, not so nitty gritty, but like enough that it's really actionable. You know what I mean? I'm not a dietitian, so I'm not going to be like, here's your macro breakdown, or like, let's get really into the science. Like my clients are like, they needed a little bit more like tangible, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So that being said, obviously nutrition is something we very much cover, but by the end of the program, it's like, I think we'll look back and be like, wow, I thought that nutrition was going to be the number one thing that I wanted to really dive into. And like, we dove into so many other things more actually, or like, really, that's not the crux of a lot of my issues, is getting on a new diet. So it's kind of cool to see people's transformation and helping them open up their mind to the reality that diet and food is just one aspect of health. That's what really allows people to see the biggest transformations is they're like, okay, nutrition's important, but so are all these other things. And oftentimes they're what's really holding me back, not just the diet, if that makes sense.
Right, absolutely. So, kind of talk to us about the transition from, studying nutrition at IIN. It sounds like you got the additional certificate later on. So, what from going to IIN and then moving on with your business, had you started that Instagram before attending? What did it look like?
Yeah.
How did you kind of get your start having your own practice essentially?
Yeah. In a lot of ways, I almost did it unintentionally, honestly, sort of backwards. And that when you go through a program like IN, of course, they do talk a lot about like starting your business and building a website and, you know, starting a social media and things like that. Enough that, I think most people that go through those programs have not gotten that far yet, which they shouldn't necessarily. That's not the expectation. But, kind of like I was saying earlier, I almost sort of did it in reverse in the sense that I was in graduate school and just trying to find things that make because I was so kind of unhappy from that job I didn't love, so unsure at what I was doing with my life that I just needed to do some things that felt positive and challenging in like a really good way. So, going through teacher training, starting a social media account, which seemed terrifying at the time. You know what I mean? Like that was so not my maybe not my personality is not the right word, but like I was not someone that like like shared on social
Mm-hmm.
media like that, but just doing things that felt like I don't know, just challenging but fun. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I was just doing those things and I actually started that prior to even learning about IAN. I'd never
Oh,
heard of
wow.
it. And that's really how I heard about IAN. So to your question, by the time I went through their coaching program and actually started taking on clients, I'd had a good amount of time to really build enough of an audience. Like it was not like I had some big following by any means, but enough that, I could kind of share with my community, like I'm going through this program, I'm, going to
Mm-hmm.
be taking on clients. And so it sort of built a little bit of maybe momentum that way. So by the time I was taking on clients, I had an easier time maybe putting people through that funnel, or I had some people that reached out that were interested, which was really awesome. And actually looking back, I'm like, it helped me a ton
Mm-hmm.
build that business, especially early on. But that was very much unintentional, because a lot of people, again, like I said, do it the opposite, where they go through the program and then they sort of launch this, whether it's they launch social media, they have a blog or whatever, which again is another little aside, because I have so many people reach out to me and ask about health coaching or like I'm interested in getting into the wellness space or whatever. I also want people to know like you do not have to be an influencer or like have your life dedicated to social media to run a successful business. Like those things, yes, like from my experience, most of my clients do come from social media, but that's kind of just because that's again sort of unintentionally like the path that it took me down. Whereas, I know a lot of people that are, again, health coaches and whatnot, but they find clients in totally different ways, or they are a yoga instructor and they find a lot of their clients through their classes, or they work for a corporate company and get all the benefits, but then do their clients are the people that work for that business. So it does not mean you have to then go dedicate your life to creating content if that's not what you want to do. Like that's not for
Mm-hmm.
everyone. So there's so many ways to go about it.
Right. And that, I mean, that's a good point as well, because I think the world that we're in right now with social media, everyone feels like, oh my gosh, I like
I need
have
to
to
do it.
grow this
Right.
like massive brand and
Right.
everything. But then maybe they hate creating content and they
Right.
just want to have the one-on-ones. So,
Right.
so going off of that, then if I'm your new client, like walk me through what that looks like, how you work with people who come to you.
Yeah. So well, it's sort of ebbed and flowed over the years because as I've grown as a coach, like my program, I guess offerings have changed a little bit. And just meaning like the length and how often we meet and whatever. But right now what I do with a client is I guess offer two different offers. So I offer health coaching intensive sessions, which are like one-off 75-minute kind of deep dive sessions with people because sometimes people are like, I can't afford to go through a longer program, or I just want a little kickstart. I don't really need the long-term check-in sort of situation. So health coaching intensive sessions are kind of that opportunity to like get the ball rolling for people. But typically, like I guess more of my real coaching offering is like a 3-month program. So oftentimes like I like to have a consultation with clients because then we can really talk about, or potential new clients I guess, talk about like their health history, their goals, see if it's a good fit, and sometimes it's not, and that's okay too. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes what people are struggling with is something that I'm just not necessarily, it's not in my scope of work or something like that. So that's why I like to have a consult, because I won't just be like, hey, sure, yeah, I'll work with anyone and everyone. Like if it's real, if I'm not able to provide the kind of help and support that they need, this is a waste of time for both parties, of course. Um, yeah, and that consultation will kind of figure out like what program offering is obviously best for them. But also just learn more about them and like what are you struggling with? What kind of things would you like to work on with a health coach? And then my like current, I guess, coaching program is it's 3 months. Oftentimes I'll have people finish 3 months and sometimes we'll continue for longer if that's what they need. But I've just found that period of time is long enough that it allows people to really see change, and they're really building kind of that foundation over that time. But it's not, I don't know, it's long enough, but it also goes by pretty quickly, which is, 3 months does sort of zoom. But I always say this to people, like my goal with clients is essentially for them to not need me in the long run. So,
Right.
helping them establish the habits and establish the foundation, like I said, so that they can continue to grow and evolve over time. Because in 3 months, a lot can change, but it's not like your life is, like you're just gonna still gonna have things you're struggling with or wanting to work on. But my goal is to have people really feel confident in their ability to go forward on their own, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Kind of the teach a man to fish instead of give him
Yes,
fish type mindset,
100%.
which is great because, you know, in today's culture, especially on social media where information spreads so quickly of like this diet or that diet or this way of eating and that way of eating is going to like fix all your problems. And it's like, well, maybe for a short
Yeah,
amount of time, but is it
right.
sustainable for your entire life?
100%. I actually use that exact example with new clients or like in consults is because, again, like I said earlier, a lot of times people come to me or just in general think like, okay, I want a new diet plan. Like, tell me what to eat. Tell me how to exercise. I'm like, if that's the approach we're taking, like, I'm not going to be the right coach for you. And also shifting our mindset to like, that's just never sustainable is important because it's not. And, I could give people a diet plan that they could follow with me for 3 months, but at the end of those 3 months, they're going to still need me. And that's really not fair to them. And
Right.
it's not setting them up for long-term success. And, instead it's teaching them the practices of like, "Hey, this is how you build a balanced meal. These are the components. This is why you need them. Here are some examples. Put them into practice in your life. Let's come back next session and see what did work and what didn't work." And so by the end of those 3 months, they're like, okay, I understand how to fuel myself properly. Not like I've been following word for word what you told me to do, and now I'm lost. Like, again, really not doing them a service by giving them the easy way, if that makes sense. So teaching them the tools to fish, like you said, is what they need, really.
Absolutely. So, what are some of those maybe like healthier meals or snacks that are like easy go tos for people? I know that you're very much like simplifying the healthy meals, which I am as well. Like, I love cooking, but if I'm spending
Yeah.
5 hours on a meal and finishing it in 30 minutes, like it
It's
doesn't
always
balance
sad. And
out.
then cleaning up for like an hour.
Right, exactly. It's not worth it. I mean,
Oh,
every once in a while, but not every night. So, what are
yeah.
some of those kind of go-to meals or snacks that you found that your clients are like, "Oh my gosh, this is like save me on a busy weeknight?"
Yeah. Oh, I love that question. I mean, to your point, like making a fun recipe is great. Like I love that too. You know what I mean? But if it has like 16 components, like you're just probably not going to do that often,
Mm-hmm.
myself included. So kind of what I work with clients on is I have what I call like a basic meal formula, quote unquote. So I oftentimes encourage clients to like follow this sort of template, if nothing
Mm-hmm.
else. And over time, you don't necessarily need to sit down and think about like, do I have my protein in my this and my like, it does not need to be so calculated, obviously, but it is basically more like a framework. So it's, you have a protein, you have vegetable or vegetables of some sort, a complex carbohydrate, healthy fats, and what I like call like flavor factor, which is
Mm-hmm.
essentially just like the idea of like using spices, using it's a dressing or a dip or some way to make healthy components taste good because I think it's such a misnomer that for a meal to be healthy, it needs to be like a bland chicken breast and like steamed broccoli. And, like that's not it. That's never going to make
Yeah.
you want to continue eating healthily. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
flavor factor is super important. Um, so with that framework, like you can build a million different types of things, and to your question, like, I'm trying to think of some easy healthy meals. Like if whether it's okay, you have a protein that's really easy to make, whether that's chicken, like I love using my like air fryer for like chicken breasts or chicken thighs or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Um, and then you can have some sort of vegetable that you throw in the air fryer or the oven or whatever. Maybe it's a little quick salad. Complex carbohydrates. It could be roasted sweet potatoes or rice or a grain of some sort or regular potatoes, whatever. Your healthy fats can be sort of like additions. So maybe that's your topping something with like it's the avocado, it's the nuts, it's the seeds, or maybe it's like the oil that you're using in the cooking methods of all these other components. And then again, your flavor factor is it's the spices that you're using, it's the dips and the sauces or the dressing on your salad, whatever. So when you kind of break it down like that, like personally for me in the summer too, I feel like I just want quick, easy things. So it's been a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
quick, easy veggies, like a salad and maybe like roasted sweet potatoes and like a protein of some sort or whatever. But even like the easy recipes and things like that like I always come back to, you can think about it like tacos, for example. Like you're having all these components in one thing, really. You have your tortilla, which is like, that's your carbohydrate source, and you have your protein, which is your meat with all the good spices on it. Maybe you have a bunch of veggies on there. Your fats are in the form of like sour cream and cheese and whatnot. So like it doesn't have to be, like laid out on a plate necessarily, but when you start thinking of your meals like that, like, okay, I've got a lot. I have all the good components that I need. Cooking becomes a lot easier. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of covering all your nutritional bases. So taking it back to the basics in that way, I think is my number one tip for anyone that's looking to eat healthier is like, don't overthink it. And it doesn't need to be a million components of like whatever healthy things, trends or whatever it is out there. Like, do I have a protein source? Do I have some veggies on my plate? Do I have a good complex carb to keep me, fueled properly and healthy fats? So it's like, it just doesn't need to be that hard.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought up the flavor factor as well, because I
Yes,
think you're right.
very
Like so
important.
many people think like I either eat good food or I eat food that's good for me. And there's
Yes,
no like crossover in the Venn diagram. But actually, like you
100%.
can make healthy food taste delicious. You just
It
need to like
should.
know to cook it well and dress it up with
Right.
those spices or those additions. So
Sure.
absolutely, absolutely. So I have to know what are some of your like favorites right now personally? Like what are you cooking for yourself
Oh,
this week?
for meals or for flavor factor? Or both?
Oh, both, either.
Oh, that's a good question. I say for flavor things, I mean, spices are huge. Like I'm a big spice girl. Like I want to really spice my chicken or my veggies or whatever. A brand that I love is called Just Spices. I don't know if you've heard, but they like make like spice
No.
mixes. There's like a chicken all-rounder seasoning and like a veggie all-rounder. So those are so easy for like roasted veggies or like
Yeah.
chicken or whatever, because it's like a blend. You don't have to have like 16 jars of random things.
Yeah.
And then like I'm a big dip sauce girl. Like bitchin' sauce is one of my favorite things ever. If you,
Uh-huh.
oh, the best. Um, but for meals, we've been traveling like crazy this spring and summer. We've had like 6,000 weddings and I feel like we've been traveling a ton. So that being said, I feel like I've been really leaning even more on like easy meals like that, where I'm kind of just like throwing together the random components and calling it a day versus like making a more intricate recipe, which is also fun, but I just haven't had the time, to be honest.
Yeah.
So we've been doing a lot of, I make these like crispy oven baked tacos. And maybe we're
Mm.
talking about tacos and that's on the top of my mind, but
Yeah.
my husband loves them. So we do this a lot. Like pasta is another really easy thing that you can throw together like so many different components in one. Like it's actually a really great meal for like sneaking in a lot of veggies. Like we
Mm-hmm.
did pasta the night and it's like I saute up it's onion and zucchini and whatever veggies you have on hand, like mushrooms are great or whatever, like into
Yeah.
your sauce. Like it's a great way to make like, and I mean, then I'll put some ground meat in there. And then like I love the jovial foods like brown rice pasta. It's like that all together is
Mm.
like again a very balanced meal in a lot of
Yes.
ways. I think if there's, I mean, other than that, it's like just again, I make a lot of just like chicken or chicken thighs in the air fryer, and we make
Yeah.
lots like steak or whatever it is. Burgers are one we do a lot.
Yeah.
I just love to get. I try to get a lot of my meats and things like that from our. We have a great farmers market by us. So when I am in town on Sundays, I love to go do that because the
Yeah.
beef is just so good. And they have a great ground beef, I guess. We do a lot of burger nights, things like that. So it's really easy. Like these are not complex things by any means.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I am really busy, it's when I crave like the simple, easy
Mm-hmm.
meals.
Absolutely. And I love the your point to pasta where it's easy to sneak in a bunch of veggies. I mean, I like to call those like my kitchen sink meals. I want to
Yeah,
have
so
like
whatever I have left.
at least one of those in the week. Yeah, maybe put
Yeah,
it towards the end of the week and like look into your cabinet or your refrigerator like what vegetables do I have left that I need
right.
to use up, and you can just toss them all in. Or it's like if you're following a recipe and you don't have zucchini but you have squash, like it's fine.
Perfect.
It's
Yes,
not it's not that deep. Just like toss
right.
it in there and you can
I
use
think that's
it.
so true. I think some people get so hung up on like following a recipe
Right.
so meticulously, which I kind of appreciate because I'm not that kind of cook, I
Me
guess.
either.
Like throw it in, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I kind of respect them like, okay, you're really following the rules. But yeah, I think in a lot of ways, like cooking should be a creative outlet and you should
Mm-hmm.
be able to express your creativity. And so like it's okay if you go off script a little bit, like you should, like change up the spices, add more spice, like add another veggie if you want to. It should be a way to sort of express like I don't know, flex your creative muscles
Agreed. And
while it's nourish yourself.
yeah, tell us that spice brand one more time.
It's called Just Spices.
Okay.
Highly recommend. They're very
Yeah,
good.
well, and that's great too because it's like also a pain if you want to make a recipe and you're like, oh, I don't have all these ingredients, and
Yeah.
you go out and you buy this like laundry list of things that then you like never touch in your cabinet
Like
again.
six
So
jars
that's
I know of
yeah,
random spices, right? My spice cabinet has so many random things in it that I'm like, what do I never use
Right.
like ground clove, but like, and you need it for one recipe and have a huge jar of clove, you're like, I
Yeah.
don't use that, So yeah, that's why I think I've really liked these blends. I'm like, this is so much easier. I'll put it on my chicken, put it on our veggies. I'm like, done.
Yeah,
I'm
cuts
even
down
just
your
lazy
cooking
then.
time as well. So that's
Yes, for
great.
sure.
Okay, so since you've been traveling a lot, do you have any go-to like quote unquote healthier travel options like for food while you're out and
Yeah,
about?
definitely. I mean, obviously when you're traveling, things it's not the time to be hyper fixated or obsessed because it's not helpful, and like
Mm-hmm.
going with the flow and just sort of taking it day by day is honestly better for your health in the sense of just from a stress perspective, which is
Mm,
something I've really learned over the years is you're like we create a worse health situation by sometimes worrying too much. But that being said, when you can think ahead and pack healthier snacks and things like that, amazing. Like you're going to feel good doing that. So I think a lot of it's just like the intention behind it and not being too worried one way or another. But yes, when you travel a lot, you're like, well, I can't be so willy-nilly all the time because I travel a
mm-hmm.
lot. So it's sort of finding a way to take care of yourself in the process. But I really love to travel with, from like a snack perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I love traveling with like chomps or like any sort of those like meat stick kind of things are really good at like high protein, especially if you're looking for like a savory
Mm,
snack because like protein bars are great, but like they're sweet, if that makes sense. And
yeah,
sometimes you're like, I don't want something that tastes like dessert all the time,
right.
So I love having like chomps or like Nick Sticks is another great brand, or like I just got some from Paleo Valley is a brand that they have great like yeah, like just like protein and they have, they're beef or chicken or whatever. And then obviously protein bars can be good. I think the ingredients are important to be mindful of because
Mm-hmm.
90% of them aren't necessarily the healthy health food that they're like marketed to be.
Right.
Uh, I'm really liking the I think Aloha is the brand. I found it at Whole
Okay.
Foods. I do like that brand a lot. Um, so these things are great to travel with for sure. And otherwise, I think like again, do your best. Like hydration is huge when you're traveling. Like being more mindful with
Yeah.
your water intake makes everything better for sure. And then when I can, and like Sam and I were saying, this is awesome when we can do it. Like we have a flight that's late enough, I guess, or whatever, that you can do this beforehand. But like oftentimes we'll pick up like a little lunch to bring with us to the airport. And like because the airports by us have terrible food options. Otherwise you're getting there, you're like, there's literally nothing here that sounds edible or
It's
good.
like this 2-day old croissant that they're going to charge me
Yeah, you're like,
$10 for.
not it. It just does not taste good or make you feel good.
Right.
So when you can, like, okay, I'll be trying to be mindful of like maybe we pick up something from a place like a wrap or a whatever before we go, and bring it with us. Like I love when I am able to do that. Obviously, you can't. Sometimes your flights don't align perfectly, but sometimes that just a little bit of forethought of like, okay, I'm going to pick up a meal that actually tastes really good and is way better for me on my way to the airport and bring it with me or whatever it is. When you can do that, it's awesome. So, being mindful and trying to plan ahead as much as you can, but also being flexible and not, again, over worrying about it because like, it's a balance of the two.
Absolutely. So these are all super helpful tips for people who maybe are like already a little bit tuned into the forethought of like, I know these foods are going to fuel me and make me feel better, but
Right.
talk to the person who maybe is having trouble prioritizing themselves and their health and taking care of themselves and like
Yeah.
how can they like shift their mindset to like feel I guess that like motivation to like really try to change their lives for the better.
And that's such a hard thing. And obviously something I see so often with clients is like you have to really want to change your own life. And like, I can't want it for you. Like, I can give you the tools and the resources and the encouragement along the way. But, and a lot of times, most of the time, I see clients thrive, because they're like, thank you. All I needed was that little push or that help that, to get there. But that internal motivation, like you gotta want to change, and sometimes I do have clients where it's like, I've given them all of the things they need to do. Here's like, this is the plan, do these things this week, blah, blah. And you come back and it's like, I just didn't really do it. You're like, well, I can't do it for you. Like you have to complete the actions. You know what I mean? Like I can't live your life for you. So it does take a little bit of like just being like the author of your own story. You know what I mean? Like you have to kind of want to do it. And again, finding a coach or someone who can help you kind of fill in the gaps in terms of maybe it's like, okay, I know I need to change, but I don't know how. That can be an amazing first step, but like you got to be the one that takes the action in your own life, of course. And that's a really, a lot of the work that we do together is kind of helping people dive in and be like, what is holding me back? Why am I having a hard time following through, whatever? And we do a lot of different like activities and things like that for people to kind of get clear on what they're focusing on, what they should be focusing on that they're not. I have this great like it's a podcast, and I can actually send you the link if you want to share it in the notes or whatever.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it's from a few years ago, and I always give this to clients even today because I just love the messages, I guess, in this. But it's Dr. Mark Hyman, and he was interviewing, I don't know his actual name, but he goes by like the urban monk. Like he's written books and I think he's on a podcast and whatnot. But this guy was, it kind of uses sort of this analogy of like a life garden where like, helping you sort of envision like your own life is in a garden and all the different things that are going on in your life or kind of priorities or obligations or whatever are like different plants in your garden. So maybe it's your significant other and your friends and your family and your job and your physical health and all the things that you spend your time doing are in this garden. And when it's overfilled with obligations and things, it begins to like these plants begin to deplete resources from each other. When a garden is
Mm,
overfilled with plants, what's in it doesn't thrive because there aren't enough resources to go around. Like your sort of like resources in the sense, it's water or soil, but like for us, it's time and attention and energy. And, so he sort of uses this analogy to encourage people to like do some weeding of like taking out the things that we're giving time and attention to that are taking away resources from the other things in our life that really matter. So, maybe that's social media. Maybe that is people in your life that aren't really encouraging you in the right way, or it's a really like life-sucking, soul-sucking job or whatever it is. So it's like, kind of being more mindful of it. What are the things I'm spending my time doing or giving my energy to that one are not helpful and two taking away resources, quote unquote, from other things. So doing things like that and kind of having these conversations with people, they're like, okay, I think really it's, I'm spending my time scrolling TikTok before bed and, hanging out with people that are, really not good for me or whatever it is, or, eating to because I'm so stressed, I'm have a lot of emotional eating habits or, whatever it is. So helping people kind of get clear on the things that are holding them back. One can be very illuminating for people, but two, it can also help sort of spark that motivation and help them understand how to better, like, quote, like allocate their resources. So
wow.
things like that. I mean, it's not, I wish I had like the one answer solution to help people become motivated, but like it's very nuanced and very complex, which is why I like working with clients one on one because we can really dive into these things and their unique situation because everyone's different.
Absolutely. And what a great analogy with the garden.
Yeah, I
Definitely
love
send
it.
me that. I'm happy to link it in the show notes.
Yes.
And yeah, I want to listen to it too. But that sounds really helpful. And so, to that point, like, and what you mentioned before with stress kind of being worse for you sometimes than just like eating the food that's
Yeah.
available. Talk to us a little bit about stress management, and especially when people have busy lives and multiple competing priorities, and how they're trying to like weave in, prepping healthy meals or things like that.
Right. No, you're so right. I mean, stress is everything. You know what I mean? It gets at the crux of everything. And I think when we begin to implement more effective stress management tools, like that's really when you see the biggest changes come about in your life. Like no diet plan or exercise plan or whatever is going to solve your problems. If you're chronically stressed, like it's just you will continue to be unhappy and unhealthy because it's impacting literally everything. Um, so helping people understand like what stress management tools are, things like meditation, walking, praying, journaling, whatever it is that speaks to people. Maybe it's all of the above, helping them understand like how to kind of dabble in some of those things and integrate them into their lives is super important. But even bringing it back to like the life garden analogy, like when you begin to dedicate your time and attention to things that really bring you joy and really matter, like your relationships, a job that you really enjoy, creative outlets, your physical health, like that by nature makes you feel less stressed because so often the things that are causing so much stress in our life are these depleting, quote, like weeds, you know what I mean? So a lot of it is implementing habits that help you manage stress because life is stressful. Like you're never going to not have stressful days and aspects of your life. That's being an adult to a certain extent, but also just big picture being more mindful of like how you're spending your time and what you are giving your time and energy to does kind of by nature help mitigate a lot of that stress because it takes away the things that are depleting out of your life in a better way, not completely, but like it helps. And then day to day, implementing some of those mindfulness practices to help you kind of just manage the day to day stress and help you feel better in your mind and your body is super helpful. And I think sort of simplifying it to your point, like it can be overwhelming. I think for a lot of people to think like, okay, now I need to wake up and meditate and do all these things and then go to my job and, and meal prep and whatever. Like it can seem very overwhelming, but one, I think boiling it down to the basics and like you don't have to do everything. You don't need to meditate for 30 minutes and take an hour walk and like find the one thing that you can do or the 5-minute meditation and the 10-minute walk. Like make it simple, make it doable. Um, and I think over time, when these things become easier, when they become just a part of your day and you're part of your lifestyle, which sounds so cliche, like people will be like, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. But true, like when you begin to live your life in a way that's more wellness focused, like I don't wake up thinking, "Ugh, okay, I got to get my meditation in and then I got to go on a walk and then I have to do all these things. Like I look forward to it. That makes you feel less stressed and better and happier and healthier. So you're excited to do those things and you begin to shift your priorities, I guess. You know what I mean? Like maybe going to the happy hour 5 days a week no longer is serving you and you spend that time going to a yoga class or going on a walk with a friend. Like you just begin to make decisions that are in your best interest kind of intuitively. So it doesn't seem maybe so overwhelming over time.
Absolutely. The prioritization of all of that and kind of like weaving it into your lifestyle and finding what works best for you absolutely is great advice for that. Now, I kind of want to switch gears a little bit
Yeah.
because I know that you also, your creative outlet, it seems, is creating content for Instagram and doing recipe development, things like that. So, talk to us a little bit about that and maybe how you get some inspiration for some of your recipes.
Yeah, I love that. No, it has been a very fun creative outlet in a lot of ways. I guess I don't know, like growing up, I don't know if I ever thought of myself as a super creative person because I wasn't like artistic or musical or whatever. But, cooking has always been for me, I guess, sort of that creative outlet because maybe it was for me. I didn't feel that I needed to like I wasn't an externally like artistic person or whatever, but cooking is like for yourself. So it's been like, I don't know, but it's been fun to sort of shift that into something that I can share with other people. Um, and obviously creating other types of content is like a very creative, I guess, sort of element as well. But from a cooking perspective, a lot of my inspiration, I think, comes from, well, many things. I think now that I'm married, like, Sam will be like, I'm really craving XYZ or whatever. And I'm always looking to find like a way to make that delicious, but also like a little healthier too. So
Hmm.
like making just healthier versions of things that we already enjoy, you know what I mean? And like, of course, traveling or like dining out, like things like that. It's always fun to get inspired that way. Or even just like things that we grew up eating, you know what I mean? Like making a little healthier swaps of things that like, I don't know, my mom made or that we had as kids. So you kind of get inspiration from a lot of different places, which is the best part. Like there are endless recipes to be made, endless like, things out there. If nothing else, oh my God, I wish that I could make more recipes. I feel like, to your point, I'm like, if I didn't have to dirty my kitchen and clean it up all the time, I would make probably 10 times more recipes. And like I said earlier, when you're traveling and stuff, it's been harder to like churn out as many new ones. But I do crave it and like look forward to it when we like aren't as busy. I'm like, oh, I just want to get back in the kitchen and like cook for us. But also it's fun to like make have that be a creative outlet and make things for other people. So it's been very fun. I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I do love finding some inspiration for recipes in travel or like a really good
Yeah.
restaurant. I'm like, oh, can I replicate this? Or if I'm eating something at a restaurant, I'm like, oh, this would actually be better if it had this in it,
Yeah.
and kind of like going off of that. That's great. And I'm glad you brought up your husband too, because it reminds me, I don't know if you're still doing these, but I remember seeing some of your Instagram videos of like recipes that are husband approved as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
So finding ways to make more traditional foods, maybe just a little bit healthier and still like please everybody at the table, I think
Yeah.
is great. And like, have you
Definitely.
gotten to do that with like maybe any dinner parties or like potlucks or things like that?
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I mean, I feel like whenever I make something for, yeah, whether it's like a family gathering, like you're bringing
Hmm.
a salad or you're bringing a side dish or whatever, or a dessert, like will bring the same things I would make us, which is typically like whether it's a dessert, but it's like has a little healthier swaps, like things like that, because no one really notices. You know what I mean? Or like they should be so delicious that no one knows the difference. But yeah, like the meals my husband loves, or I guess just any meal in general, like it's fun to show people that, like we were saying earlier, healthy eating doesn't have to be like bland and boring. But I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of, maybe like girls kind of our age-ish that are like getting into that chapter of like now they're cooking for two or whatever, that they feel like, okay, now I have to cook something that like he would like and then something healthy for myself. I'm like, well, first of all, the whole family should be, like you're caring for each other by giving them healthy meals, you know what I mean? And
Yes.
showing them that they can be like what their husband's going to want to eat, but like in a little bit healthier way can be great. And also teaching like, or helping, I guess, like the other like female spouse or whatever, understand that's like, it doesn't have to just be like a salad to be healthy or like the bland chicken breast to be healthy. Like you could enjoy the pasta and the crispy tacos and the other things too, because you're using really great ingredients and like you're maybe making a couple good healthy swaps here and there. Like understanding that you can eat together as a family and eventually as a family with kids and things like that too, where everyone wins. Like it's tasty and it's also nourishing you and your family the right way. It's just kind of fun. And it's funny though, it's like any of the recipes that I cook, like Sam's eating and hopefully enjoys, but it's like you just put like husband approved on it. And they're like, oh my God, okay, this would be something that is like people like. You're like, okay. We're trying to open up everyone's minds. Like, hopefully they're not that picky, but I think some people do struggle with finding things that like everyone will enjoy, which I totally understand. So that's fun.
Yeah. Well, they're great tips. If anyone needs them, you can go check out some of those recipes. But I know we touched a little bit on Instagram and like how you don't necessarily need to have this huge following or whatever to, use it as a creative outlet for
Yeah.
recipes or whatever field you might be in. But talk to us a little bit, I guess, about your community and like what's the like fun part of Instagram for you if that is one of your
Yeah.
creative outlets. Or I'm saying Instagram, but I guess really any social media or the
Yeah.
blog or anything.
Definitely. I mean, the best part of it, and this sounds so kind of cliche or corny, but like actually connecting with people, like building a community has always been, I guess, my like biggest goal. And it's so funny. I literally was talking about this on my stories yesterday that I think, because I had a question box and someone asked, like, how do you grow on social media or whatever? And I get that question a lot too. And I always hesitate because it's like, if that's someone's main goal is just to grow, like it's to build an audience or to build a following. I think we need to reassess. Like, I didn't go into this being like, I need to be Instagram famous. Like, no, that is not the goal. I am not. That is not like, I don't wake up being like, wow, like you need a big Instagram following, to like feel good about yourself. Like, we need to reassess. Like, that's not the end all be all. And, if that's really the goal of like what you're trying to do, you're never going to be satisfied because there's always going to be someone out there that has more followers than you. I think people think like, oh, once I hit 10K followers or 100,000 followers, then I've made it. And you're like, you hit those goals and you immediately think, okay, well, that person hit 20,000
Mhm.
or that person has 200,000, so you're never going to feel like you've built what you know what I mean? Like achieved that. Like there's always gonna be something else. And so that being said, the focus I think needs to be more on like, what am I bringing to the table, first of all? Like, what's my purpose here? Why did I start this in the first place? Like, what am I here to share? Am I giving people valuable tips? Am I inspiring them? Am I just, I'm an artist and I just want to share my work and this is my creative outlet or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be all educational, but, you know, providing something of value, I think is really important to me, at least. And also the whole point is to like to build a community of people. That's what social media is to build an online community. And from my perspective, it's like I want to provide value to this community. I want to answer their questions and provide that kind of support or give them the right tools and resources that they need to be successful. And I'm by no means like a perfect, at all. Like we're all navigating social media day by day and it changes. But like, I think that one, to your point, like you don't need to have the biggest audience ever to be successful. If you feel good about the kind of content that you're creating and you're enjoying connecting with your community, then like that's the win. So I don't know. I think that the perspective towards social media is just it can kind of give me the ick. And it also just it
Mhm.
makes me sad. Like that's like you said earlier, it's like now everyone thinks that they need to be this like mega influencer to be successful. And like if that's the end all be all goal, like you're just probably never going to be satisfied. Because it's not like it's not a goal. It's not like you've made it eventually. I don't know. it's a
Right.
weird
The
thing.
goal is
It's
always
really weird.
moving forward. So you're always
Right,
chasing it, I
right. And maybe
guess.
that's in any industry. Like you feel like you've hit a milestone, you then you're on to the next, bonus or level or whatever. But like that being said, I don't know, I've always felt like I wanted to feel proud of like what I'm putting out there and like and enjoy it. Like if this isn't enjoyable anymore, then what's the point, you know?
Absolutely. So working from home and owning your own business, I would imagine it could be quite isolating, or you guys just moved to Florida from
Mhm.
Texas. Talk to us a little bit about how you find a community, whether it's within your industry or elsewhere, for those who may be listening who also work either by themselves or
Yeah.
remote, or are moving to a new space.
Yeah. And some cities are easier than others. I think like for example, when you were in Austin, like it's a very wellness focused city. It's a very like athlete focused city. I know there's a lot of wellness culture in that city. So like it's a lot easier in some places, meaning there's a lot of wellness events and workout classes and things like that that you can go to. And so it was really easy, I think, in a space like that to meet people in the wellness space. But regardless, in any city, if you really dive deep enough, like in most every city, I guess, like there are a lot of events, or there's a run club, or there's a workout studio. Like I've used this example a lot. Like when I first moved to Austin, I met one of my like to this day very closest friends who we are not from the same place. We didn't go to the same schools, but we both went to Core Power, and I would see her in class all the time. So we just like spark, you know what I mean? Like you chit chat next on your mat to each other, and then we became friends. And like our friends years later. Like she moved out of Austin, I ended up moving, and so you never know. Like she was in my wedding. It's like you just never know who
Hmm.
you're going to meet from like a simple yoga class. You know what I mean? So I think kind of putting yourself out there is important, of course, but also finding events or classes or whatever that align with like things that you're interested in, probably going to lead you to meet some people that are interested in the same things, whether that's a pottery class or it's a yoga class. You know what I mean? It could be anything. And now I feel like there's so many more things, maybe as like the world is becoming more wellness focused, like there's more run clubs and there's more things like that. Like I feel like a lot of cities are becoming more maybe more wellness focused, especially for like younger people. So I think it's
Hmm.
actually there's a lot more opportunity to meet others that way, which is really cool. That does require kind of putting yourself out there, and which is uncomfortable, but is actually so good. I think everyone should have that experience, like being new, and like having to put yourself out there. Like you grow a lot by doing that.
Absolutely. I love that perspective too of like you can find it anywhere. I mean, I used to think like,
Yeah.
I've wanted to move to New York City for ages, and I used to think like, oh, like I have to be there because that's like where all the wellness things are. And don't get me
Right.
wrong, I love it here, and I am going to a wellness thing like basically every day.
Yeah.
But I do miss, like, I teach Pure Barre well, I teach it here as well, but in Knoxville, it's such a
Huh.
close-knit
Yeah.
community, and like there's like one run crew there
Right.
that
Like
I run
those
with.
teachers.
You
Yeah.
know the people,
Right.
because here there's like a different one on every corner. So there's
Right.
definitely pros and cons to both. But I think that's a good point too, to like be where your feet are, and like you can find people
People.
that
Yes.
share your interests. You may just have to like put yourself out there and get a little bit uncomfortable.
Definitely. But
Absolutely.
teaching is a great way to, like, that's to your point. Like, I mean, you don't have to be a teacher, but even just taking classes, like, workout studios are great, like, whether it's Pure Barre or Core Power or Pilates or whatever, like, love that. And teaching, I think, is a really, you meet people even more because you're just interacting with people all the time. It's a great
Absolutely.
way to,
So, yeah, talk to us a little bit about then your time getting your yoga certification. Are you still teaching?
I'm not teaching now because there isn't a Core Power near us, sadly. And
Oh, yeah.
I'm just a yoga sculpt teacher. Like I'm only certified for that class. So I did not go do like the 200-hour teacher training where like I could go
Hmm.
teach yoga anywhere. Which maybe I'll do at some point. I don't know. But I just loved their yoga sculpt class. I took it a lot as a student, and it's so fun and high energy, which is why I decided to go through that training program. So I taught when we were in Austin for like 4 years, give or take. COVID, there's a little break in there for a
Yeah.
period of time, but it was so much fun, and I really loved teaching that class. I got to know, to your point, like teachers really well. It was a very close-knit community too, and I met tons of just like I loved the students that came. Like, when we were, obviously University of Texas is in Austin, so like, tons of students, you know what I mean, are
Oh,
there. So you just
yeah.
get to meet like, to get to know a lot of like the girls that came consistently. And honestly, a lot of over the years, I guess a lot of those like core power students actually ended up becoming clients of mine for health coaching. So
Oh,
it was kind of an
nice.
unintentional, but like
Mm-hmm.
pipeline to, I met because you get to know people well. And then they would, they'd figure out what you did and, whatever. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, since we moved, there's sadly just not a studio near us anymore. And there isn't really like another class that's kind of comparable in any other studio I've
Yeah.
tried. So, you know, one, maybe they'll build a studio here, but if we did move somewhere else, like I would love to teach again
Yeah.
down the road. But I think I always, and I say this a lot, like I really attribute so many things to going through that teacher training journey. And I don't know if you may feel the same about like your pure barre teaching, but having to put yourself out there to stand in front of a group of strangers and speak for an hour on
Mm-hmm.
like, like think on your feet and things go wrong. The music gets messed up. You stumble your words or whatever. Like it really pushed me, I think, to kind of grow and maybe my own like self-confidence, but I think it's actually made me a better coach because a lot of it's similar. You know what I mean? You're speaking to strangers. You have to like come up with things to say and even better in things like this, like
Right.
whatever it is, like I think prior to my journey doing any of this, I was so scared to like speak in front of people and,
Mm-hmm.
like make a fool of myself. And I was so worried about what other people thought. And then you go through something like teacher training where like you are making a fool of yourself. Like you are messing up.
Yes.
People are judging you and there's nothing you can do about it. You just get better at it. You stop caring so much and you do get better at like, something gets messed up and you roll with it, you keep talking, you make it funny, like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It actually teaches you so many good like life skills beyond just like from a physical perspective of like teaching people a great class, but like it taught me a lot. Like I'm so grateful I did that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't really thought about it, but you're right. It probably does hopefully make me a better podcast interviewer as
Yeah,
well. To like think on your foot and like go off the plan and
yeah,
let things roll where they roll. So that's
sure.
funny. Okay, one last thing before I kind of switch us into our final questions because I know I've
Yeah,
taken up so much of your time already.
no, you're
But
good.
I am a runner as well, and I saw that you ran the marathon in Paris, so we just have to chat about it. Tell me all
Gosh,
about it.
love it. It was so fun. Obviously, how could you not have fun in Paris? But yeah, I've been. I mean, it's funny because I feel like I mean, I say I'm a runner, but like I'm not running for a ton. But I've run consistently since like college,
Hmm.
and just enjoy it a lot. And one of my best childhood friends, she and I both actually separately, but both studied abroad in college in Paris, for a semester
Oh,
each. And so
fun.
and she has kind of run, we both are like, we run for fun. And for years, we both have said, like, okay, maybe a marathon's like a bucket list, one and done kind of item for us.
Hmm.
And so we were like, all right, well, if we ever do it, let's just commit to like doing it together. And then as sort of time went on, we're like, okay, well, what if we did it in Paris? Like there is a Paris marathon. So we sort of just hatched this idea and like because the marathon was this past April. And
Okay.
April before that, we like just moved to Florida and we were seeing like all of the Instagram, whatever Paris like content, stuff. And so,
Hmm.
like I called her, I'm like, okay, if we're gonna do this, like we have to commit. Like because once, life goes on too far, I'm like, well, then you're gonna have babies. And there's all these things involved that like this is gonna become 10 times harder.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? This may be like maybe next year is our year. Like we just commit to it and you have to book it ahead of time. Like you gotta really plan
Yeah.
for a trip like that. So we like literally signed up a year in advance and just made it work. But it was so fun. And we made a trip out of it. Like her boyfriend came and my husband Sam came and um it was just a blast. Like we took our time, we went at our own sweet
Yeah.
pace, and like we were not caring about the time or like hitting any sort of goal. Like our goal was to finish. It actually made it was so much more fun because we just got to like enjoy it together. Like that was the purpose. So anyway, highly recommend. It's a great race. And I mean, how could you not have fun in Paris?
Oh,
I highly recommend
seriously.
doing a marathon abroad because then you get to book a fun trip around it. And then you get
Yes.
to go somewhere cool.
Yes.
So it was perfect.
Love a runcation. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
it's
Highly
so,
recommend.
so fun that you did it with a friend and that you
Yeah.
guys both study abroad there. I mean, so that makes it extra meaningful as well. I
Yeah.
think it's fun to like pick a place that like has that extra little meaning as well.
Meaning.
So that on a tough training day, you're like, okay, why am
You
I
get
doing
to
this
go there. Yeah.
again? And you're like kind of thinking about that. So wow. And I mean, people book it before it becomes a marathon that has a lottery. I feel like
I
I'm
know.
like shocked that you can just
That's
like sign up for that
I know.
one.
Well, that was a huge bonus for us too, because we're like, we're not
Yeah.
qualifying for anything. But yeah, you can just literally sign up. And I didn't realize this until we were there. Well, first of all, it's a humongous race because
Really?
it's not a lottery system. But
Uh-huh.
I think like 55,000 runners,
Oh,
which there are more people. Again, don't quote me on this,
wow.
but I read this somewhere, something that was like there were more runners than the New York Marathon, which is a huge race. I was
Wow.
shook. I was like, wow, there's
Yeah.
many more people, because I think of New York as being like, there's so many runners. But
Right.
anyway, it's a huge race, but it is a staggered start. So like you do get
Okay.
a specific start time based on your estimated finishing time. Because there's so many people, they have to kind of like corral you through it in groups,
Mm,
which made it actually a lot better. So it wasn't like, I mean, in any race like that, you're kind of dodging people a little bit, but it was not miserable in terms of like too many people that you're like fighting, you know what I mean? But so pretty. So highly recommend.
yeah.
Very fun race.
Yeah. I think it's the prettiest city I've ever been to.
Yeah,
So that's definitely on my bucket list for sure
love
is
it.
to do that one. How is training in Florida?
Um, hot. But actually, because the race was in April, my
Oh,
training
true.
cycle was November through April, which is
Yeah.
like the best time of year here.
Yeah.
Meaning, so it really was not that bad. Like if we were training now, miserable, like so
Mm-hmm.
hot, so humid. I mean, it would be really challenging. So
Yeah.
personally, I was blessed in that it was like kind of the most perfect time of year for me to train down
Mm-hmm.
here. My poor friend Abby, who ran with me, she lives in Washington, D.C. So it was like snowing,
Cold. Oh no.
cold, and Ms. I was like, she was the real winner. I mean, like she is a freaking superwoman. I mean, there were times that we would have like long runs that you know, we'd have like an 18 mile or 20 mile, whatever. And we weren't doing it together, but we would do it the same day. And she
Yeah.
would like be sending me videos and photos of like snow on the ground. I'm like,
Oh my
and it's
goodness.
like 70 degrees and cold. I was like, oh my God, she's gonna hate me. But wow, it was very impressive. But yeah, so the season matters. Like I would never run a fall marathon living
Yeah.
here because you'd have to train all summer and it's
Yeah.
not it.
A great tip for people to think about based off of
Yeah.
their
No, it
climate.
matters. It makes a difference for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I just love that you guys ran together, even though you live apart. And I mean, that's another great like motivation tip for people.
Yeah.
Like on a day where you're like, oh, I do not go out and do 18 miles. You're like, well, my
Yeah.
friend's doing it. And like,
You have to
I
do it
have to
right.
do it.
You got to do it. No, it
Yeah.
is super helpful. Having someone, whether it's your significant other, whether it's a friend, whatever, like having someone to go through it with you makes it
Hmm.
way more fun. Because there's a lot of days you're like, I really don't want to do that run to your point, like it motivates you to get it done. But just have someone like share that journey with is helpful. Like no one else really gets it, when you're like going
Yes.
through it. Like, but having someone to like just talk about what you're struggling
Yeah.
with, or whatever, it was just really nice to have someone who like
Yeah.
is in the same situation as you. You're like, it was a bonding moment for sure. You
Definitely.
know.
Definitely. What shoes did you run in?
I typically am an Asics
Hmm.
gal. So I kind of alternated between those. And then I actually ran in, I don't remember the brand Diadora. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
not as big of a brand, but it's
Uh-huh.
an Italian brand. I highly recommend if anyone hasn't done this, getting fitted at like a Fleet Feet or any sort of
Hmm.
running store is essential. Like going and choosing whatever random pair of shoes you think looks cute is not going to be helpful for your foot. Like
Yeah.
you need to get fitted. So whenever I get fitted, it's either Asics or whatever. They always tell me that, or this other brand, which is funny that they always recommend it for me. And I have some other like runner friends that are like, we've never heard of Diadora.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But I actually ran the race in those shoes because they just worked well for my foot for
Yeah.
whatever reason. And were very comfortable. So shoes matter because
Yeah.
your butt,
Yeah.
it can really mess up your everything. You
Everything.
the wrong
Yeah.
shoes.
Number one place I would spend money on for sure if anyone was like starting out and
100%,
running.
100% for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I could try running all day. Maybe I'll just have to have you and your friend back on to
Yes, of
chat all
course.
about the Paris Marathon. But
She'd love it.
but but I'll move us on to some final questions.
Yeah.
First off, what's your favorite workout?
Well, I guess running aside, this sounds so simple, but like walking. I mean,
Hmm.
if you're going to do anything, period, walk more. Because I mean, it's just you hit it's good for your mental health, good for your physical health. Walking is maybe the best workout if you're going to do anything. But the workout like program I've done consistently for I guess like since we moved here, so it's been like a year and a half. I do the Build and Burn workout. It's an
Oh, I have
app.
not heard of that.
I don't know if you follow Rosie Times Two. It's two sisters, and they are like fitness influencers, but they're also just
Okay.
like the cutest girls ever. They actually live in Sarasota, which we were just talking about earlier.
Oh,
But they're the best. I actually know them like personally, I guess. And so they're the sweetest gals, but they have a fitness app called Build and Burn. It's 4 workouts a week, all like strength training, you know what I mean? But they're like 30 to 35 minutes, super effective, like the best workouts ever. And I've loved them in the sense that they're like I feel the strongest I ever have doing them, but they don't take up hours and hours of your day. Like I think it's a misnomer you need to go to the gym for like at least an hour to get a good workout. And like I've been doing these 30-minute workouts consistently and like I'm actually stronger than I was before. So it's like it's testament to like an effective tailored program actually makes a difference. So I've loved those workouts and they're just like you just literally need like dumbbells. Like it's not anything crazy. So I think like that and walking.
yeah. I
Those are my
love
things
it. That's
recently.
great too, because like you can probably do that traveling or at home
Yeah,
or
for sure.
anything.
Literally
Amazing.
anywhere. Yeah,
Okay.
especially this year, kind of working like the workout at home and it makes it a lot easier. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get their info and connect them with my friend who just moved there
yeah, yeah.
too.
Sarasota.
Amazing. Small world. Okay, this is gonna be probably hard. What's your favorite food? Or maybe a few of them?
Honestly, the hardest question ever. Because
Yeah.
I think everyone would have the hard time.
Yeah.
If I have to, this is like maybe my longtime favorite food is pickles.
Pickles.
Pickled anything, sign me up. I'm a salty.
Yeah.
I love sweets too. Like, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I'm never gonna say no to a dessert, but like I'm a salty gal. And so like pickles, I could sit and probably like literally house a jar of pickles like without breathing hard. So
Would you
that's a
drink the
fun fact
pickle
about me.
juice? Would
I've never done it, but people say it's really good for like athletic recovery. Like if your
yeah.
neighbor is a drink pickle juice, I'm like, I would
I've
not
never
do it.
done it, but I've heard. And
I've never
so
done it. I have what I would do, and I actually never, I don't know if I've ever done this, but I've seen a lot of people use pickle juice for like salad dressings. Like they'll make a salad
Oh.
dressing and like put
Yeah.
I'm like that I could do because I love the flavor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. I
Um,
guess I have scooped a little bit for like a Greek salad out of like if
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
doing
yeah.
banana peppers or something in
Right.
it.
It's
So,
like the same
okay.
thing as like 'cause it's basically vinegar and whatnot. So
That's
it's like
true.
not that weird, but
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any new wellnessy products, classes, skincare, and brands, anything that you're into that we should check out?
gosh, there's always so many good ones. It's like hard
Yeah.
to boil it down. Something I've really loved and used, I guess, consistently for a while now, though, is I have a red light therapy like panel.
Hmm.
Kind of like I feel like red light therapy is kind of getting like it's kind of its moment right now.
Yeah.
But I've used, and I mean, people have masks or this or that, and there's really,
Hmm.
I mean, they all are effective in their own way, but I really do love red light therapy. I've used it for, I mean, you can use it for so many different things, but it's really, especially during marathon training,
Mm.
great for like reducing inflammation, good for
Oh,
healing, things like
really?
that. Like really good for like it basically, not to get too much into the nitty-gritty, but like it helps like your mitochondria and your cells perform better. So you just recover more quickly, you have more energy, whatnot. So it's really good for like healing. So I use that
Yeah.
a ton, weirdly, like on my feet and my legs when I was training. And I swear it helps me not get injured quite so much and recovery was a lot better. But I even use it like, like on my face. Like I think it really helps for like things like discoloration or like I had a really bad bout of dermatitis a couple years ago, and it's been really helpful for like some of like pigmentation and scarring from that. So like red light therapy is great. I mean, there's a lot of really good brands, but I have like a red light therapy panel. So it's like a like this big. Fringe is the brand. I also do have one of the face masks from Bon Charge, which is another really popular brand. But those are devices that like, they're trendy and you kind of think like, do I really need it? Which like,
Mhm.
no, you don't need it. Like it's not make it or break it, but I happen to have it and really like it. So,
Yeah. I had
it's
no
my best.
clue that they could be used for muscle recovery. I'd like seen the
Yeah. Oh
masks and I
yeah.
just figured like, oh, it's for like skincare or something.
Yeah, which it is. I mean, there are a lot
Mhm.
of skin care benefits, like external benefits, but the internal benefits are enormous. And actually, the brand Fringe on their website has like a ton of research around like it's so much more than just like, oh, it helps with your texture or your skin. Like they're using it for like cancer. And they're all of these amazing things that are like so much honestly more impactful than just clear skin. You know what I mean? So I would love it for that reason. You're like, God, it's good for everything. So that's been one I really love. Gosh, I'm trying to think. I've really been I've really tried to shift a lot of my skincare to more like clean products
Mm-hmm.
over time, you know. But like Primally Pure is a brand I've always really liked. You know, it's obviously a pretty common brand, but I feel like for a long time I was so maybe skeptical of like the beef tallow. You know, that's not, you can use it for cooking, but like a lot of like tallow-based skincare. I don't know. I was just like, is this gonna make me break out? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of acne prone, so I guess I'm hesitant about anything that might cause breakouts. But I've been using one of their like tallow. And it doesn't advertise it as this, but it's like a plumping cream. It's like a moisturizer, but it's a tallow-based moisturizer, and it is the best. It feels so
Oh,
good. It makes you feel just like glowing. I'm like, okay, maybe tallow skincare is worth the hype. I don't know. So, gosh, I could go on, but I don't know. I think with any of those types of like trends, the reminder is like you don't need them.
yeah.
But like if you use it and you love it, go for it. You know, like it's like drinking a greens powder. Like I get asked that all the time. Like, do you recommend it? I'm like, I mean, if you enjoy it, it makes you feel good, go for it. Like, do you need it in your diet? No. Like, should it be the basis of your health? No, you need to eat vegetables. You know what I mean? So like there's other, those essentials like eating well, exercising, sleeping well, that's more important than using a red light therapy device. But like that's a great additional thing if you like it and if it works for you. So that's kind of a
Agreed.
side note.
Very well said. Okay, we're gonna jump into our rapid fire
Yeah,
questions. Morning or evening workout?
morning for sure.
Running or walking?
Right now, walking. I think I was burnt out after the marathon. I'm like,
Yeah.
a minute, I ran too much. I'm over it. But I do love to run, but I think in general, walking over running.
Mm-hmm. Lifting or body weight?
Oh, God, they're both good. But I mean, I think I personally need weights to like really see the most results from my workouts. So I'd say lifting. Oh.
And obviously all of these are just like what's your preference? You
Right. I
can
know, like
choose
they're all
both
good in
as
their own
well. It's not
way.
like one or the other,
Yeah,
but
to each their own.
yeah. Okay, indoor or outdoor workouts?
Outdoor. I think maybe since we moved to Florida, I've always been doing my workouts like right outside. I
Oh,
don't know,
so
maybe
nice.
maybe because I can and it's a blessing to live in a warm place. So like, plus I think if you can get a little extra sweat, a little extra sunshine, like can't hurt you, you know?
Vitamin D, absolutely.
Yeah, why not?
Juice or smoothie?
Smoothie. I gotta have the bulk.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Coffee or matcha?
See, this is such a hard one because I really like both,
Agreed.
but I think like if I had to have one for the rest of my life, probably coffee. Just some coffee girl. But I love
Yeah.
matcha too. That's the thing, you
I
know?
know. I know. Same. These are hard for me as well.
It
I don't
depends.
want someone to turn this around on me. So, salad or bowl?
Ooh, bowl. Again, I love salad, but like
Hmm
your
hmm
girl needs some bulk.
Yeah. Yeah. I want a little greens with
I
my
need a grain.
toppings.
I need something that has like some meat to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Pizza or pasta?
Pizza. Sam and I talk about this all the time. I was like, you more of a pasta guy. If you had to choose, like I love pasta too,
Mhm.
but like if I had to choose pizza for sure.
Yeah. Tacos or quesadilla?
Tacos. I don't
And
know.
last one, early riser or night owl?
Early riser for sure.
Same.
Since I was a kid, I was like that weird little kid that was like, I'm up,
Yeah.
never been able to sleep in, which
Mom.
is actually, I wish I could sleep in. Like I've said that, especially in college and stuff. I was like, if I
Yeah.
could, I would. Like, it's not that I'm trying to be up, like hitting the ground at 6. I just like, my brain is
Yes, we are the
hyperfunctioning.
same. I'm like
Yeah,
ready to go. That's when I'm the happiest too. I think a lot of people are like, please stop talking. But
I know. Oh my God, I'd rather get up and get my day started. That's just, I guess,
absolutely.
wired that way. But those are good
Yep.
questions. I like them.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I thought there'd be a little fun addition at the end. But okay, where can people follow along? Are you taking new clients? If so, how can they work with you? All the good
Yeah.
stuff.
So yeah, you can my like website and I guess social media is all goodness with G or goodnesswithg.com. I am currently taking on a few clients for the next, I guess like the summer. So yeah, on my website, there is like a tab about health coaching. You can read all about all of the program offerings, book a consultation, whatever. And yeah, those are the best way. And you can also contact me and blog, recipes, all that stuff is also on I guess both my Instagram and my blog.
Perfect. And I will, of course, link to your Instagram as well in the show notes for anyone. You can just scroll on down, give her a follow. Lots of great content, especially on recipes and just general wellness and all of that. So thank you so much, Georgia, for coming on. It was just such a joy to talk to you today. I know
Thank
that
you.
people are going to love hearing all about you and learning all these great tips that you've provided. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. This is so fun.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Health by Haven podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review. It makes such a huge difference in reaching new people and spreading the joy of healthy living. I would also be so appreciative if you subscribe to the show in the listening app of your choice so you never miss an episode. Your support truly means the world to me. Have a happy, healthy day, and I'll talk to you again soon.